Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. I've been running for a few years now and have the privilege of meeting many incredible runners on my travels all across the country. This podcast is intended to share those amazing conversations. Today's guest is Magda Boulet. Magda is the VP of Innovation at US Energy Labs and runs for Hoka. She has many podiums and race wins to her name, including the prestigious Western States 100, and she's also a US Olympian in the marathon. In today's episode, we talked about how Magda got her job at GU nearly 20 years ago and how things have changed since then. We also talked about GU's partnership with InsideTracker and how Magda and her team have used a science-based approach when it comes to product innovation. Magda shared some tips on how to manage a busy career alongside her training and family life, as well as what gets her excited when it comes to training, travel, and racing. What Magda seems to have the most pride in talking about is how she's able to inspire other runners, as well as her son Owen, to see that anything truly is possible and that dreams are certainly worth chasing no matter how big they are. Enjoy. Hello, I'm here with Magda Boulet here at GU Energy Labs, and we are going to chat about running and nutrition and fueling and the super cool story that she has over the last few years. So thank you, Magda, for joining today.
Thank you for having me. Super stoked to be on this podcast.
Of course. So the premise behind the podcast is looking at the why and sort of understanding what keeps people motivated and what keeps them engaged in the sport. So I guess let's kick it off. Looking back a few years, what got you out the door on your first run?
Right. So that's a really good question. I think just to start by saying that my why has definitely evolved over the years. But going back to just my first run, it was definitely for a very simple reason, is to make friends. I grew up swimming, and when I moved to this country, it was extremely difficult to make friends while you're swim in a swimming pool and not really talking to too many people. So running was my ticket to making friends and keeping it social and getting integrated into a new place.
That's awesome. The community aspect is something that comes up more and more, or not more and more, but very frequently.
Right.
And it's one of the things I love most about the running community. And not only, our amateurs talking to each other, but amateurs are talking to pros, and pros are talking to amateurs, and pros are talking to pros, and it's super cool to see how interactive it all is.
Yeah, it's just thinking of my life alone and the friendships that I have made over the years. I've been so blessed to say that I still have friends that are really close from college, that we sweated it out with tears and love, trying to compete for any championship, or just the workouts that we've done over the years, to post college in training partners, to now the trail running community. It's amazing how what do you get out of it.
Definitely. How has your approach, I know you mentioned your why has changed, but how has your approach to running changed since you were running in college and post-collegiately and to where you are today?
Such a good question. I think that, when I was younger, I was really chasing results. That was, and I was pushing the envelope, pretty hard, kind of redlining it. And I think I'm a lot smarter now. I think I have learned just from my mistakes. I'm also a lot more educated. I've been in a sport. So it's a combination of knowledge, experience, and a lot of failures, just along the way, that I've realized that, well, first of all, recovery is part of training. It's extremely important. And that the longevity in the sport is also important to me. So it's not at all cost anymore.
Definitely. And you mentioned the chasing results. How has your process changed from, trying to PR everything to enjoying the process?
I think that, especially right now in trail running, I'm really good about setting goals for A races. Not every race is going to be my A race. So the A race is the one that I prepare the most for. It's the one that takes the longest for me to prepare for. It's the one that means probably the most to me that year or that season. And just being okay that, I have the rest of my races are kind of the supporting races to reach that that A race at my best fitness and ability, and just being okay that that the B and C races I might not perform as well as I would like to, because there's only so much that you can do in one season, and you got to take care of yourself in order for you to come back the next year and then the following year. And, I have plans to stick around for a while. So
Nice.
That's really important.
Cool. How do you choose the A race?
Oh, it's really like from the bottom of my heart. I consider myself kind of a late bloomer to trail running. So there's still a lot of races that I haven't done. And that's been so difficult for me because, you see people that keep coming back to the same race over and over again, but it's always at an expense of you not doing something else.
Right.
And I'm still kind of exploring all the races that are out there, and it's exciting. It's what kind of keeps me also, in the sport. So I usually just follow my heart. I like to pick my A race as a competitive race, but at the same time, I do, look at the course, I look at the community, I look at where it is on the map. So
Can
all
you
of
explore
it,
somewhere new?
Can I see a new place? I mean, this is kind of the fun part of doing what we're doing as runners, is that, especially in trail running, that you do get to explore the world in a different way with your own feet, and that's the coolest part. And it is an important reason why I continue to run. So I do look at the map and sometimes pick locations based on where it is in the world.
Nice. Where are some of your favorite places to race?
Well, wow, they've been all so different for so many reasons. Obviously, I went back to Chamonix, to UTMB 5 times. Whether it was for UTMB or CCC. And that's been, just such an amazing, exploration for me of the mountains. But I also just got back from Hong Kong, and that was my first time racing there. And
how are all the stairs?
Yeah, it was amazing. Just, such a different geography and what it had to offer. And I was completely blown away. So I think I'm still exploring, and, every place that I go to, I get something out of it.
That's awesome. So let's talk about getting into running. What brought you to Berkeley, California?
Well, I came out here to go to school. That was number one reason. I think really, I've never been to Berkeley, but I was obsessed with coming to Berkeley. I have no idea why. Well, I do know. I've read a lot about, Berkeley as a school and being this, crazy fun place and liberal, and I kind of from far away, not really knowing or ever never
the lay of the land.
I was really attracted to it, so I actually committed to coming here before I even put my foot on on campus. But when I did show up, when I came out for a late visit, it was the first day I fell in love. I fell in love with Telegraph. I fell in love with just the diversity. I remember, being taken to the hills right above campus, and, just being in the redwoods. Immediately I was sold, and the education here at Cal was, one of the best in the country. And that was the initial draw, but what really, really closed the deal was the redwoods.
Yeah, I was out in the Marin Headlands this morning, and there's something special about the trees and the smell and those eucalyptus. It's just
peaceful.
Yeah,
it's you can be so close to the city, yet you have many venues to escape and kind of just balance it all.
Definitely. So we're sitting here in your office at Goo Energy Labs, and you have kind of an interesting story of how you got to where you are, both from a running standpoint, but also from a professional standpoint. You saw something you wanted, and you went for it.
Yeah.
Let's hear about your chat with Brian and how you got to Goo.
Right. So it was a while ago, and it really will come out now in the in the podcast. But that was over 20 years ago. So I was in my senior year at Cal, and I was preparing for NCAA's, and I actually was really in a really good fitness. I was really excited, not really known that well, even at NCAA level, until probably that race, but kind of surprised myself and probably some other people. But I had a big breakthrough, and I remember that morning alone, 4 or 5 hours before the race, I was, watching other races, and I was just sitting there, and my stomach was like cramping. And I was like, I can't even eat, my race is 4 or 5 hours from now. And there's like, I can't even think of, putting anything in my stomach. And my teammate from Cal, who was a decathlete, handed me a vanilla Goo. And he's like, here, just take this before the race. It's going to be easy on your gut. You definitely need some energy. You can't just go, hours without, eating. And I remember, having a great race that day. And then I came back and, as a senior finishing third at NCAA's, career was kind of over. It's not like, people were waiting there to pick you up, say, hey, come and represent our company.
Come run for Hoka.
Yeah. That didn't really happen in 1997. There were some post-college teams, but I really wanted to stay in Berkeley, and I just started to grind and work. And unfortunately, like the next season, I ended up running 3 5Ks in a row, like a month apart, exactly same time. And I was just getting really frustrated. Here I am trying to like make this a post-college thing, and instead of getting better, I'm actually not really improving. So, a light bulb just, went off in my head, and I said, well, I think I'm training hard. I trusted my training. I think there are other aspects of my life that I need to take a look at to see if it's complementary to what I do. And nutrition was the next thing on my list to figure out. So I grabbed my coach, and we basically knocked on the door here at Goo back in 1998, 1997, and I met actually. So Brian Vaughn is the owner of the company. His father started the company in 93. So I met Dr. Bill Vaughn, and we kind of just hit it off and started to talk about, what I could do to improve my nutrition, timing of my nutrition, dialing it in. And I was really, really inspired by that. And, that led to a part-time job doing research. And eventually, many, many years later, I'm still here having a great time, and I'm in charge of the R&D department, the innovation and the research and development. And it's been an amazing journey. Yeah. And it definitely has allowed me to pay attention to just little things that make a big difference.
Definitely. And we love the hashtag eating is training. So what's day to day? What does a day in the life of Magda at Goo look like?
Right. It's really busy, in a good way. So I will bounce. I have a team of 4 people just directly on my R&D team. So I have a sports nutritionist, I have 2 product developers, and a project manager. And between the 5 of us, we'll bounce around from a performance lab project that could be a physiology focus and nutrition focus to either innovating new products or improving current products, or working with athletes directly and supporting them. So it's my job is definitely it's not as specialized for me as it is for my team. I definitely bounce back, and it keeps my mind really sharp.
And so GU sponsors a handful of athletes. Do you think that, how much of an advantage do you think that GU has because of your background in the sport and what you bring from, you have sponsors and you work with athletes as a sponsor? Right.
Yeah. It's a really, really good question. And, just being in this world, I remember, being a younger athlete and really, really struggling just from month to month to make it work. And realizing, when you're putting so many hours of training and you're putting your career on hold, how much the support of your team, so your sponsors and your partners, how much that can make, how much of a difference that can make in your success, or how much easier it is to get from point A to B. So I am very cognizant of, of when we work with athletes and making sure that we are there for them to support them in very creative ways, and you really have to, it's not always about money. It's about what, how you can contribute to their success, their goals in a way that actually is impactful.
Definitely. And you mentioned it's not always about money. I remember a conversation I had probably 2015 with Brian Vaughn, and he said to me, I could just pay the athletes more, but I want to create a program that differentiates GU from, the rest of the field and the rest of, my athletes' potential sponsors.
Right. I mean, just like longevity probably as an employee in any career, we would like to create that here at GU as well. It's, when we work with athletes, we want to contribute, by providing services like offering InsideTracker blood testing to them. And the reason why we're doing this is because we want to not just dial in their nutrition, but we also want to make them realize that paying attention to those biomarkers is extremely important for their longevity, whether they stay with GU or not. We hope they do. They need to take care of themselves because it's a fine balance. You're applying stress. The training is a stress on the body, and making sure that we provide the right nutrients at the right time, and then we keep track of it is important for our careers.
Definitely, and building on that, on the innovation side of things, it was cool. So we've been working on behalf of InsideTracker with GU for 2-3 years now,
right?
4 years now, and 2 years ago we started the partnership where the athletes were GU was sponsoring the athletes to go through the InsideTracker program.
Right.
And what I found fascinating was many of the athletes had similar, but they would check 1 of 5 boxes or 2 of 5 boxes, and now you guys have supplements that address those things. Yeah.
I mean, it's a learning, it's a learning process for us as well. I think that once you start seeing trends in deficiencies, minerals or vitamins, I know it's different. Everyone is different, and that's why we treat our athletes as individuals. But there are some tendencies that we all have, whether it's vitamin D deficiency or magnesium. And yes, now and then, just learning about, over the years about gut health. So yes, we've launched a probiotic supplement for athletes, and we're looking at trends that, strains that directly correlate to immune system. So we can really focus, because, as you know, probiotic, just the word probiotic doesn't just apply to everything.
Many things, many choices.
And it's, it's a very trendy area right now, but making sure that we're addressing, either the deficiencies or potential for illness related to training is what we're trying to do. And same with the magnesium capsule. So
Definitely.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's, the work that we're doing is, is leading us to to creating products, and that's the process that we're trying to take, is that we're looking at the needs of an athlete, and that is how we start the innovation process here at Go, solving problems that athletes face in training and in their career.
Definitely, and backed by science and validated with objective data that supports, like, this is a problem, here's how to fix it. Yeah. One of the questions that always comes up for someone like yourself would be, how do you balance it all? How do you're training a lot, you have a family, you have sponsor obligations, all travel, right, going to Hong Kong, things like that. We were talking before, I'm trying to figure out how to balance the travel, and I don't have many of those things.
Right.
And I'm still trying to figure it out. So
don't worry.
It's a very personal question, or a very selfish question here.
Don't worry. I'm still trying to figure it out. Sometimes depends when you ask me this question, I might have a different answer, but it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
So, I always remind myself that, it's really fulfilling when you can just, work your butt off, and get even close to reaching your goal, when something comes really easy to you, you don't appreciate as much, but when you pour some tears and I do have moments where I feel very overwhelmed, or moments where, I wanted to get my training in at this time because the weather was perfect, but I end up going at, in the evening, and now it's really crappy. And then I'm kind of, pissed at myself. But I think it goes back just to, as an individual, I kind of, approach, my life just, like I always did with athletics. I create a team around myself. And I'm very strategic about about my team. It's really important that you have people in your life, that you surround yourself by people in your life that really get you and will understand, and don't make you feel bad if you miss, certain things, in favor of getting your training in. And that's really critical, people that will also inspire you. And I think that, obviously I credit my family with being that rock for me. We've been able to kind of morph, running more of a lifestyle in our family than anything else. And that's been, that makes things a lot easier. Like, my son gets it. He will never ask me well, why do you have to go train? Why can't you do this? He knows that this is something that, that I live and breathe, and it's important to me. And when I come home, I'm such a better mom at home. And I have a lot more energy, and it's funny, the harder you work, the more energy you have. And it's kind of like fitness, right? Aerobic. Suddenly, you catch that, nice
second wind,
and you're yes, I can do this forever. So same with balancing it. Sometimes I just want to say, balance is overrated. But I make sure that when I go to bed at night, that I don't feel guilt, that my family and myself were fulfilled with what we're doing, and that I'm making an impact in the world. I don't, or just in my community. Maybe in the world is a little bit too strong, but that what I do has a bigger purpose than just me getting faster and better.
It's like a vehicle.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the cool thing about what social media offers, that it's not just Magda siloed training. It's Magda picking a goal, training for it, sharing the highs and the lows, and following the experience and the ups and downs along the way.
Right. I mean, that's how we grow as individuals, right? We committing to something that, is a little bit uncomfortable, and you know that there's never a guarantee that it's going to work out, but through those struggles along the way, we get stronger, we get better, and hopefully it catches on with one or two people in your lives and you inspire someone else to do the same thing. It's beautiful.
Definitely. Do you like the longer distance stuff because it's more of like the unknown, and like I think anyone can run a marathon. I don't think anyone can run 100 miles.
It's a really good question. Having done both, I honestly, some of the marathon training, sessions I've done have been the hardest, sessions that I've done in my life. But it's very different because, again, the duration is not as long, and you can really perfect it and dial it in, and there is definitely less room for things to go wrong, both physically, environmentally, like what's outside of you, but also in your mind. Doing something for 2 to 4 hours is very different than doing something for up to 24 hours, where there's a lot more room for things to go wrong, and they always do, no matter what. And I think that for me, the fun part right now is that all the years of experience and me, trying to have that composure in adversity is really paying off in the longer stuff. And I'm enjoying this because, it's really not always about the fastest person, to win a race. It's about the person that can handle the most.
Whether it's
the storm or your attitude, like as simple as your attitude, and, it's I think trail running will teach you to handle the adversity in a different way.
Definitely. Then it applies to life. I read an article in, I think it was Outside Magazine, that said basically point blank, endurance athletes are better employees. And that was the statement.
Yeah, it's a great statement. I think that going back to your original question, the why, bringing it back, full circle, this is why I do it now, because it gives me the opportunity to go through some of the ups and downs and struggles. And, at the end of each year, at the end of each season, I feel like, I have always walked away with some growth, some opportunity to handle more, and that eventually just piles on. And after years, you're like, wow, I definitely can handle my adversity, and things can be thrown at me. And I got this. I've been there before, maybe a little bit different situation, but I got this. And in a workplace, let's be honest, things go wrong all the time. And there's a lot that you can control, and there's a lot more that you can't.
Right. Totally. How does your son see it?
Well, that's that's a really good question too. I've been watching him, and he's it's been fun to watch him grow. But yeah, I think that a lot of this stuff that I do, he thinks it's really normal, and everybody else doesn't. Which I keep.
Mommy's running 100 miles again. Well, what's your mom doing?
Yeah, exactly. Which I keep try to remind him, your mom is not normal. Owen, your mom is not normal. So we keep trying to to make him realize that, and it's okay, but it's been more fun just to watch him kind of dive into martial arts and do things that I cannot do, and see him handle it, at the age of 13. And I hope that it's probably too soon to tell, but I hope that when he goes to high school and college, he can really apply some of the observations from my journey as a runner.
Definitely. We've touched on it a little bit, but what gets you really excited? Like what wakes you up in the morning?
Oh, the wind in my face. I love starting a day with a run. It's where I wake up. It's where my brain, I think, just the health of my brain. I think I can really say that it's running is very meditative to me. And whether I run, just through my neighborhood, through, streets of Oakland, or I'm in the redwood trees, it's what keeps me healthy, kind of in my, emotionally. And starting a day like that just gives me superpowers. And that's what gets me excited because, I might have a really long day ahead of me. But at the end of the day, I'm super excited that I get an opportunity to put a few miles, under my legs before the craziness starts.
Yes. So one thing you mentioned initially that you weren't great at is the recovery. So what does recovery look like now as someone that truly understands the space and the nutrition and performance and what it takes to be successful?
Right. Well, I'm very, very thoughtful about what I put in my body. I think nutrition it's not just the sports nutrition that we talk about. You got to make sure that, that you put the right nutrients in your body when you're competing and training, whether it's immediately before and after. And, I think, after so many years, I have this dialed in, but I also really pay attention to the rest of the day. Your breakfast, your snacks, your lunch and your dinner. And, I focus on a ton of vegetables in my diet, high fiber stuff. I used to be really afraid to have too much fiber before a run. It's amazing, how your gut is really trainable. And, it depends really what are you training for? So really thinking about, supporting my demand as a runner. So the workload that I do with the proper foods has helped me just with, high energy and recovering and feeling good and responding to my training. And I really believe that is, what continues to, to fuel kind of the years that I've had in running. But also making sleep more of a priority. That's tough. That's tough for me. Because, when you have, and I only have one child, but imagine if you had two or three and, sometimes Owen goes to practice and comes home, at 7:30, and then we still have to eat dinner and then he goes to sleep and I kind of just want to sit down and kind of think about
decompress,
the day, and decompress. And, by the time you realize it's almost 10 o'clock and I start really early. So making those compromises, I've really adjusted, my routine, or I'm a lot more flexible and adaptable. So if I do have a late evening, I will not get up really early in the morning. I will sleep in and get my sleep and go on the run during my lunch break, which I don't always like because, I like to sit in the garden with my coworkers and, share my salad. So just being adaptable, and really putting whether it's nutrition or recovery or sleep, as a priority, and then kind of working my day around it.
Cool. What's next? What keeps you excited? What do you have coming up? What are goals that you still have for yourself that, you haven't checked off yet?
Right. Well, last year has been a really interesting year, and I kind of dipped a little bit into trying stage racing, and I learned a ton from that. I learned, the importance of the immediate recovery, with nutrition, from day to day, and having plenty of, in your tank on day 4 or 5 of a stage race, and kind of the complexity of it, as well as
like a
simplicity. Yes, the complexity happens up front when you're preparing for it. It's really cool. And then kind of the minimalistic approach to kind of the race, like MDS, which, you live off this, little backpack for a full week, and stuff that I would probably not consider myself ever being able to do, just when you prepare for something like this. It's so cool. So I really enjoyed it, and I would love to do some more stage races. And ever since MDS, I have realized that there are so many of them all over the world, which is kind of cool. But there are, iconic races that I still haven't done, and Leadville is on my list this year. Would love to do that, and Laboredo, and then kind of going back and training for a marathon, which really scares me right now.
It's funny how as you go longer, the shorter stuff seems like harder and harder.
Right.
I was at Western States last year, and I was asking, like, what do you think about at the start line? And a guy answered me like, nothing. You don't have to think about anything. Like, I'd rather do this than a 5K. That hurts.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's amazing. I mean, you can in trail running, but I've experienced that in marathons too. It's really unique when you get in a flow and you stop thinking.
Yeah.
And you really just, you just in this different universe, and it feels good, and you're just floating on trails or roads. And, I believe that can happen at any, in any distance.
It's so cool when it happens. I had the experience, I'll remember it forever, mile 29 of my first 50K that I ran in November. And we were cruising down from the top of Mount Judah in Tahoe. Mm-hmm. And it was just like everything felt good. I felt like I could do it for hours. And it's just this feeling that nothing compares to it.
Right. And you know what? They don't happen that feeling does not happen every single time you toe the line. It's those moments exactly that you just mentioned. It's like, I call it just that cloud nine where it's everything, you're running hard and it's effortless and you feel like you can do this forever. And you just realize that, afterwards that, wow, that was very special, and it's really worth working your ass off
and chasing
for years and years to have that moment again. And, for me, like, I can, in over 20 years of running, I can probably count on one hand those moments that just felt like that.
Yeah.
But they're worth it. Like, even if it takes another 3 to 5 years to have that moment, it's okay.
I hope not, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, that having that moment is just a celebration of all the cool stuff you've been able to do up to this point, because the training, the journey of, preparation, that's the really cool stuff. It wouldn't really mean as much to you if you didn't put that time,
put in the work,
that struggle, that, that floating moment, being in that flow wouldn't be as fulfilling.
Definitely. What do you think gets you there? How do you get that?
It's the day-to-day, just staying, consistent, putting in the work, especially when you don't want to get out the door, which happens to all of us. But, and it's just that accumulation of work, and it's your body just celebrating.
It's the best.
Giving you the gift.
It's the best. One of the things that my coach loves to highlight is that the race is the icing on the cake. It doesn't matter, but it's a celebration.
Yeah.
And it's the celebration of like you said, the day to day, the work you put in. And that's what counts.
I totally agree. And a lot of, I think a lot of, especially young runners, have a lot of anxiety, when it comes to race day. And I also try to remind, my athletes, like, see it as a reward. This is like you're earning this by today, by you have an opportunity to race because of all the work that you put in. Celebration, reward, whatever it is, it's a cool moment, and you get to show off, like, what you've been doing. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but there's always next time.
Yeah. And accepting that it won't feel good at some point as well.
Right. The longer the race, most likely you'll have plenty of moments like that. Not just one, but plenty.
Definitely. So let's hear about a day like Western States, or something that just went really well. What's been your most memorable race?
Right. Well, 2015, that was my first, definitely first 100, and it was at Western States. I definitely felt like, I had moments where I would just, float until I took the wrong turn. So taking a wrong turn kind of just, it like shook me up. Suddenly, I went from, especially when it happens early, you're still feeling really good. Things are really easy. And it's a lot more likely to be in that zone and be in that flow. Especially when you're going through high country and it's beautiful. And we had a great year that year. So I definitely was zoning in and out, and I tend to do that as a runner. And there are plenty of races where I won't even see the flags, or even, remember the last time I saw a flag on a course. So, getting off the course definitely kind of, blew that bubble for me. Suddenly I was in more of a kind of an anxiety state, a little bit of a panic, and trying to figure out, how far, did I go off the course, and suddenly like, where am I in the rankings, and all of the bad things just keeps, coming at your brain and filling it. And I really had to just do some like serious breathing as I was trying to get back on a course and chase down the pack. Just telling myself, like, you need to check your attitude. This is a long race. This is only my mile 30. You've got 17 more miles to go. And then the other side of the brain keeps going, well, today in your first 100-mile race, you're actually going to run more than 100 miles. So it's like balancing the negative, thoughts with the positive thoughts. And, I remember finally getting to one of the aid stations, even before I saw my crew, and I saw Megan Higgs, and I was like, I went off the course. And she's like, just relax. And like the way she looked at me, she's like, it's okay. It's a long run. It's a long ways to
Many
go.
more things will go wrong too.
Yeah. And yeah, she could have said like, you might get off the course 2 more times before you get to the finish line. But, just like the tone of her voice is all I needed at that moment. And also like your crew is critical. By the time I got to, it might have been Michigan Bluff when I saw my husband. He nailed it. He didn't even acknowledge. I think he could see that I was coming in and I was ready to say, oh, I went off the course. He's like, just, hey, you're fine. You're looking great. Here's some eyes, like refocusing, the conversation, and your mind at the same time, and just bringing it back to like what really matters. Just like go and enjoy the trails. Like there's so many things again that you can control, and there's so many things that you can. And I remember just leaving there, and I was just like, I'm gonna do this
at peace.
I'm at peace. I'm gonna go and have fun, and I know it's going to be hard, and the heat is kind of brutal, but you suddenly start embracing it versus letting you work against you.
Definitely. What would you tell Magda of 2005?
Oh, wow. Don't train through injuries.
Yes.
I'm almost embarrassed to think these days, how far I pushed on certain injuries where I knew it was hurting. I knew my body shouldn't have been training, but I kind of limped my way and, took longer to warm up. And, I was looking for whatever it took to get me out the door, where in reality, few days might have just
saved it.
Yeah. And instead I pushed it too hard and ended up on the sideline for 2 months.
Definitely.
So, don't train through injuries. Don't be afraid to not to run. I think that I never, back in the days, cross training just in my mind was not going to replace the fitness, and it was not going to maintain the fitness that I've gained as a from training, from running. And now I'm a little smarter than that. And if I can run, I can bike, I can swim, I can hike, and all of that stuff will, be beneficial in a way, to preventing from getting, making the injury worse or maintaining the fitness.
Definitely. Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. Where can people find you on social media if they want to follow along with your journeys?
Yeah.
Your journey.
So handle is at Run Boulet, Twitter and Instagram.
Nice and easy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Magda.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Bye.
That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next week on For the Long Run. And in the meantime, happy trails. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too.